Welcome to the NewsBlitz. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the NewsBlitz for the week for the 8th of March. NewsBlitz is a brief take on some of the gaming events of the past week, providing a quick look at the news, hence news, followed by a heady rush of hot, fresh opinions, the Blitz. This is a program that works hard to wear biases on its sleeve and give you a clear line between fact and thought. This week, nVidia releases a dodgy driver, Lionhead Studios potentially closes its doors, and most importantly of all, it's my birthday. We'll also wrap up this week with a quickfire minor news segment, stories too small to warrant full discussion. nVidia caused trouble on March the 5th with the release of their 364.47 driver. This driver, intended to release alongside the Division primarily for optimization, caused a number of troubles. The driver reportedly caused blue screen of death errors and on some occasions reboot loops for the various computers that had installed it. Initial suspicions were with an issue with dual monitor setups, although some users have reported issues without a dual screen setup. The error was apparently traced to people using an express install, although further details have not been shared by nVidia. If you've downloaded the driver, roll back immediately and download the newly released 364.51 driver. If you're struggling with booting, running in save mode apparently does solve the issue. If you've been affected by this issue, my heart does go out to you. Computer issues are a massive pain in the ass. Let's talk about it in the Blitz. Now for nVidia, this is kind of an embarrassing issue to say the least. I mean, you really don't want to be known for your software causing blue screens. That's not good. And unfortunately there's not too much to discuss in the Blitz. I mean, we can all agree that this shouldn't happen and really shouldn't happen. It's just worth noting, and nVidia needs to be slammed for it. Awareness on this kind of issue is kind of important. We need to hold these companies to a very high standard, because we're dealing with incredibly expensive hardware here, and there's only two real companies. We're dealing with an oligarchy, I think it's termed, and even then nVidia has sort of tried to force a monopoly, and as such we need to hold nVidia to an incredibly high standard if they want to try and play it running a monopoly. Now in my opinion, the graphics card world is long overdue a massive shake-up, with nVidia's financial dominance becoming a massive problem, nVidia GameWorks and the like causing issues for AMD cards and so on. It's all a little bit worrying and a little bit concerning. That said, AMD's driver record is, shall we say, far from spotless. Still, these companies need to be slammed for any potential issue and any damage they can cause to your hardware or to your software in terms of booting up and so on. In further news, it was announced on the 7th that Lionhead Studios, creator of Black and White and Fable franchises, are in closing negotiations with Microsoft Studios. Lionhead Studios was founded after the EA acquisition of Bullfrog and was most notably the brainchild of Peter Molyneux. In a statement from Microsoft Studios Europe's general manager, Hanno Lemke, after much consideration we have decided to cease development on Fable Legends, and are in discussions with employees about the proposed closure of Lionhead Studios in the UK. Fable Legends, an asymmetrical multiplayer game in which teams of players attempt to go up against a dungeon master, received moderate positive attention during its unveiling in 2013. After announcing a delay last year of the title's release, things went a bit quiet. The proposal to close Lionhead is likely only a formality. From my vague understanding of British law, redundancies have to have a consultation period beforehand, during which staff can negotiate reassignment and retraining. Either way, let's move on to the Blitz. So let me begin by saying that this is going to be similar to the game trailer story that broke not too long ago, in that Lionhead Studios is an old studio, and it's an old studio that I really liked. I just had a massive love for Black and White especially. I wasn't too invested in Fable because it was an Xbox franchise and didn't really have much of a PC presence, but Black and White, my god, I used to play that game on a PC that could barely run it, and I would play it for hours and hours and hours and hours. And I'm sad to see it go. I really am sad to see Lionhead Studios close its doors. Their logo was brilliant, they had some great developers, some very talented people worked at that office. That being said, they hadn't done much lately, so it's not too big a surprise to see them vanish. It felt like the studio lacked direction or lacked a purpose these days, and this kind of can happen with a large publisher like Microsoft, where the studio releases some big franchises, the franchise falls out of light, and suddenly, hey, the studio's got nothing to do anymore. And let's talk about Fable Legends as well, because it was cancelled alongside this. This isn't a game I was too interested in. I had taken a quick look at it, and it's an interesting idea, right? It's quite ambitious, but asymmetrical multiplayer games, in my opinion, should be really left to the indie developers. They're they're incredibly hard to get right. To me, the most recent example of an asymmetrical multiplayer game is Evolve, which is the closest thing you'll get to a AAA release of an asymmetrical multiplayer game. When I say asymmetrical multiplayer, I mean one team of players on one team, and then you're going against one or maybe two players who are doing something incredibly different. Now, while Evolve was a very different game, 4 players going against a monster rather than a dungeon master, quote unquote, the Fable Legends style of game is incredibly hard to get right. Personally, I think the first developers to nail it are going to be an indie developer, and they're going to just accidentally hit on a winning formula, or manage to make a game and build it up long enough over time to make it a real winner. At the end of the day, like I said, there was kind of an inevitability coming towards this. Lionhead had 2 major franchises, and neither had really seen much light recently. Fable Legends was a dramatic change in the normal Fable formula, and Black and White had been consigned to the history books basically. Their superstar lead developer had moved on since and made kind of a terrible game, and whatever future they had was kind of limited. Still, sad to see a British company vanish, and I hope the staff move on to better and brighter pastures. And rounding out with our final piece of major news, it's my birthday today, March the 8th. This is literally just indulging my ego, but it will also serve as to give me space to a new segment that I'm thinking of introducing, which is especially relevant as this is a slow news week, or at least a week with a lot of minor stories. And I'd like to be able to cover those in this program very quickly, present some facts, maybe a one-note opinion on the pieces, but otherwise it's just going to be a single paragraph each. So let's hit those quickly. Nintendo announced a new Paper Mario game with an incredibly cold reception. YouTube dislikes are racking up at a rate only matched by, well, Metroid Federation Force, to be honest. Critics are claiming that the game is a deviation from what made the original Paper Mario games fun, which is a tongue-in-cheek, self-aware storyline, instead of following in the footsteps of a poorly received game which is Paper Mario's Sticker Star. Nintendo have not been impressing lately, and they seem increasingly out of touch. The Division launched with all the fanfare of a AAA multiplayer release, namely the standard endless complaints about server issues. Things hit peak silliness even after the servers came up, an issue with an early quest line forcing players to form queues in order to wait to use a laptop. Multiplayer games often have issues, and regardless of my criticisms, The Division had a popular, although bumpy launch. I'm still very curious to see how the game fares in the long term. And last but by no means least, I'd be remiss not to mention it, despite having a video that already covers it. Overwatch's release date was announced to be the 24th of May, earlier than the June date that many people had already penciled in. Coming with this news was the announcement of an open beta, running between the 5th and 9th of May, or from the 3rd to the 9th for pre-orders. That said, loot and level progression will reset upon launch, so don't think you're getting an early advantage by playing the open beta. Thank you for joining me on this round of NewsBlitz. I've been Josh's one voice amongst many, and I'll see you again next week for another look into the world of gaming news. Happy birthday to me, I'm now older and probably not wiser. As always, your thoughts and feedback is appreciated, and if you like the video, hit the little thumb, it does help immensely. If you didn't like the video, hit the dislike one as well, it also helps. Toodles!